Hey, good morning. Patricia Murphy here. It's Saturday. This is Seattle Now. Today, we're bringing you the best from the KUOW Newsroom. But before we get started, every day, even on Saturdays, you choose Seattle Now to learn something new about your Puget Sound community. We are part of a dedicated local newsroom who follows stories across the city to bring you news that matters. And it all relies on support from the community. So this May, join KUOW in amplifying the impact of public media giving days with us. Giving now to KUOW is a way to pay it forward, ensuring that everyone, not just those who can afford it, has access to high-quality news. Just tap the link in our show notes or visit KUOW.org to make a gift. All right, on with the show. First, Washington State's Democratic Party is facing a competitive election season, and its fiercest challengers are other Democrats. State government reporter Sarah Mises-Tan has more.
Fresh-faced Hannah Sabio-Howell is running for state senate in a district representing Seattle's Capitol Hill. But when I tried to talk to her about her campaign, her fire alarm kept going off.
Apartment living.
She's a young millennial taking on one of the state's most powerful Democrats.
I think right now we're seeing a community-based movement against status quo, politics as usual, Democratic leadership that has said, we're delivering for you. While we look around and say, where is it? I can still barely afford to live here.
Sabio-Howell favors more taxes on the state's richest corporations and people. And she's running against Seattle's Jamie Peterson, the Senate Majority Leader. She thinks Peterson is out of touch with his liberal district. Dean Nielsen, a Democratic political consultant, says it's remarkable to see Peterson being challenged from the left. After all, he led the effort to pass a historic income tax on millionaires this year.
Majority Leader Peterson has been, frankly, the most progressive Senate leader in Washington state history.
Experts like Nielsen say a leftward shift is happening all across the Puget Sound region. This primary election season, at least 6 Democratic incumbents are facing challenges from within their own party. And those newcomers are more liberal. Even moderate incumbents like Amy Wallen are attracting opponents from the left. Wallen is a state rep from Kirkland. She's one of the few Democrats who voted against the so-called millionaires tax this year. Her opponent supports that tax. Here's Nielsen again.
You already are starting to see some of those fracturings within the Democratic caucus. And as the caucus gets larger and the Republicans fail to compete in these elections, you're only going to see this more and more.
He says it wasn't too long ago that Republicans were a larger force in legislative races.
Up until 2018, you had fairly competitive elections where the Republicans were controlling the Senate. Now elections have largely become uncompetitive, and the Republican Party is vanishing in Washington state.
Senate Majority Leader Jamie Peterson, who we heard about earlier, says he actually welcomes a challenge from a more liberal candidate. He's run unopposed or nearly unopposed since 2013.
I think competition is really great for democracy, and I applaud that. I'm glad that my constituents will have a choice, and I'm excited to get out and talk to them about the work that we've been doing.
Peterson says he tries to keep his progressive Seattle base in mind when crafting laws like the millionaires tax. His base in the 43rd Legislative District tends to favor these kinds of tax-the-rich policies. But he says lawmaking is about compromise, too.
It's also hard for people probably living in the bubble that the deep blue 43rd sometimes is to understand what it takes to get things passed in Olympia.
Chad Minnick is a Republican political consultant. He believes that what's driving Washington state's leftward shift can be traced to the other Washington, D.C.
Trump is so unpopular with the left-wing base and with moderate independent voters on the left coast where we are, that it doesn't matter what your policy positions are as a Democrat. You're going to have the advantage over any Republican.
He says national politics have pushed both Democrats and Republicans to more extreme ends of the political spectrum.
There's very few moderates left in either party, to be honest. It's very hard to find that middle ground and get elected.
Hannah Sabio-Howell, remember her? She has that very sensitive fire alarm in her apartment. This year, she's running to the left of the Democratic establishment, but she started her career working as an aide for East Side Rep Larry Springer. He's a moderate Democrat and a dying breed in Olympia. In fact, Springer's not running this year, and 2 new Democrats will vie for his seat this election season. In Olympia, I'm Sarah Mises-Tan.
Next, Friday was May Day across the U.S., and here in Seattle, a march and rally started at Cal Anderson Park. On hand, a new group called the Seattle Singing Resistance, inspired by the anti-ICE movement in Minnesota. As Anna Boyko-Wyrock reports, they're an example of how Minnesota-style organizing is influencing activism in the Pacific Northwest.
You do not carry this all alone.
Bex Lips and Jake Harris are longtime singing activists. 2 months ago, they helped found the Seattle Singing Resistance.
Singing Resistance Minneapolis was already doing their thing, and then they put out a call to organizers all over the country to come together and organize under this Singing Resistance umbrella. So we looked at each other and we were like, well, I guess we are Singing Resistance now.
This winter, the federal government deployed more than 3,000 ICE and Border Patrol agents to Minnesota. Thousands were arrested and 2 U.S. citizens killed. Many say the protests were instrumental in getting the administration to eventually draw down. The Minnesotans' tactics were big and diverse, from physically blocking immigration arrests to delivering food to immigrant families, and even serenading ICE agents.
It's okay to change your mind.
Singing, "It's Okay to Change Your Mind." That's an original song from Minnesota. But the sound you're hearing is actually from Seattle, when the Seattle Singing Resistance gathered outside Target in Northgate, part of a national campaign pressuring the company to block ICE from its stores. Organizers Bex Lips and Jake Harris were there too. They say singing together is a simple yet powerful tool. To spread your message, sure, but even more, to bring people together.
You embody that message collectively together for one moment and go, yeah, we all agree with that. You walk away from that interaction a lot different than if you just said, yeah, we hate this thing and we hate this thing.
Outside Washington Hall in central Seattle, Sadiq Daniels hands out flyers for a protest. He didn't used to be politically active until federal agents killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, and U.S. officials justified the shootings.
You can't just lie to the people and backtrack it later, especially after a murder of an American citizen.
He's part of a wave of people who were motivated by what they saw.
If the government's goal was to go to Minneapolis, arrest people, take that plan, and just apply it to the rest of the country, they're going to be here at some point.
That's why Daniels came out today, along with more than 100 people. They packed into a warm room, taking notes and listening intently to activists from Minnesota.
We started out in Tucson, then we went to Los Angeles.
Seattle was the last stop on a multi-city tour. Murray was a presenter. Just one name for him, he says, so he doesn't get doxxed. He and 3 others shared their stories and tips.
What's your message that you want people to take away? Well, I think number one is you really need to get these infrastructures set up before it gets real, so to speak.
He's talking about neighborhood-specific infrastructure like patrols tracking federal agents and rapid response networks. Those include signal group chats to alert people when ICE is nearby. Cam is another presenter from Minneapolis.
It's given us the ability to respond to ICE abductions within minutes. And as we discussed in the talk, it overshadowed the centralized nonprofit hotlines that quickly became outmoded as ICE became more aggressive with their tactics.
Some protest tactics were aggressive, too, and sometimes controversial, like blowing whistles or getting physically violent with ICE. And not everybody was on board with that. Here in the Seattle area, many people have already spent months figuring out their strategy for any potential ICE surge, including setting up their own neighborhood networks to spot and respond to immigration enforcement. They are adopting, but also adapting, tactics from Minnesota. Community involvement, of course, is not new to the Pacific Northwest. The activists from Minnesota say they also came to learn from us. Anna Boyko-Wyrock, KUOW News.
And finally, a story from the city of Battleground in southern Washington. A social studies teacher at Battleground High School was suspended 8 months ago for what she said at a politically charged time, and she's still working to be allowed back into the classroom. As OPB's Eric Newman reports, the conflict demonstrates the difficulties teachers face when it comes to social media and political controversy.
The incident for Battleground High School social studies teacher Amanda Gonzalez started on September 10th. It was the same day that conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot during a speaking event outside Salt Lake City. Gonzalez remembers it was in between class periods. A student came up and asked if she had heard about Kirk's death.
I was just like, he's not my political cup of tea, and moved back to, let's end this, move on.
The student's account was different. In a text message to his mom, he wrote, quote, Ms. Gonzalez was laughing about it, saying she had no sympathy for Nazis. His mom shared a screenshot of the text on social media. From there, it went viral. A few hours later, the district put Gonzalez on paid administrative leave. She's been there for the past 8 months. She says it feels like the situation burned her life to the ground.
It's impacted my children. It's impacted my parents. You know, my parents now have video cameras on their home because their address was leaked online. I look out the window, and if I see a car across the street for too long, I start to panic.
In a report outlining why Gonzalez was being discharged, Superintendent Sherry Witten wrote that multiple students alleged the teacher had a political bias, and it was having a negative impact on the district. Quote, the district finds the students credible, Witten wrote. Officials with Battleground Public Schools declined to comment. Then, in January, a retired Washington State Superior Court judge weighed in. She'd been hired as a third-party arbitrator. In her report, the arbitrator wrote that the allegation against Gonzalez was not credible, and the opinion she had expressed was not egregious. Gonzalez should get her job back, the arbitrator recommended, along with attorney's fees and back pay. But the district hasn't allowed Gonzalez to return to class, and that lack of support has left some teachers feeling unprotected. Just after the incident with Gonzalez, English teacher Jordan Johnston was teaching the 1953 Arthur Miller play The Crucible. It tells the story of the mass hysteria of the Salem witch trials. It's an allegory for the Red Scare and McCarthyism in the 1950s.
Part of what happens in The Crucible is that you have these young teenagers making up just outright lies about the adults in the town.
Johnston remembers leaving her classroom when an administrator pulled her aside.
She said, I just wanted to let you know that another teacher overheard some students bring up your name as possibly being a really liberal teacher, and that maybe they could get you to say something to get you in trouble and maybe get you fired.
The next minute, she had to step into her classroom and teach The Crucible, a play about false accusations and reputations being ruined. Some other teachers at the school feel the same chilling effect. Joseph Drury is a math teacher at Battleground High School.
We're all just kind of walking on eggshells, it feels like.
Shauna Walters' son is the high school student whose text messages sparked the investigation into Gonzalez. She declined an interview request, but wrote that she doesn't think the teacher should get her job back. Quote, we were assured multiple times that the district did not base their pursuit of termination solely on the testimony of my son, rather from the mountain of evidence from multiple sources, end quote. Nearby districts have dealt with other social media conflicts recently. Ben Folgers is an English language arts teacher in Des Moines, Washington, and a union representative for the Washington Education Association. He says a school cell phone ban in Washington state would be one small way to prevent the kinds of incidents like Gonzalez's in Battleground.
Teenagers are teenagers. They're not fully thinking about the consequences of what that kind of accusation can have.
While Oregon and many other states have laws prohibiting the use of personal electronic devices during the school day, Washington has no such rule. At this point, Gonzalez has a few options. The district has made multiple settlement offers, but she says none have been enough to make up for her potential lost retirement savings and medical coverage. Now, after 8 months, she and her lawyer are giving the district until Monday to reinstate her, or they say they'll take the issue to Clark County Superior Court. I'm Eric Newman reporting.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thank you to our generous donors for your financial support. You can help us out by clicking the link in the show notes and following and rating Seattle Now on your favorite podcast app. Our production team includes Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Vaughn Jones, Andy Hurst, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.